Welcome everyone to our physics admissions webinar, where we're going to tell you a bit about our program and different opportunities we have, and then have some time to answer some questions. So the way we're going to proceed is we'll start with some introductions. We'll have some extra discussion about what about the research and opportunities in the lab of some of our faculty members who are particularly trying to recruit students right now. Then I will give an overview of some of the administrative aspects of how our program works and how the application process works. And then we'll talk a bit about two particular training opportunities that we have in our program called Condesa and GRISE and CCBM. So another one of our colleagues, Professor Ajay Gopinathan, will join us at 9:30 for that part. And then we'll do some questions and answers with you, see what questions you have, and try to answer them. So let's begin with introductions. To start with, my name is David Strubbe, and I am a condensed matter theorist. So in my group, we do calculations to try to understand the properties of materials. We look at electronic and optical properties. We look at defects and two-dimensional materials and materials for photovoltaics. Those are some of the main topics that we work on. And also, I am the chair of our PhD program. Why don't we go to Kevin next, who is our admissions chair.
Hi, I'm Kevin Mitchell. I'm a theoretical nonlinear dynamicist, which means that I use nonlinear dynamics techniques and computation to study a variety of different problems. One of the nice things about nonlinear dynamics is it's very interdisciplinary. So I've been able to look at problems in AMO, that's atomic molecular optical physics, in the past. More recently, I've been focusing on fluid dynamics and a bit of soft matter / biophysics applications as well. And I also develop fundamental techniques in nonlinear dynamics that you might really classify as applied math. And I am the admissions chair. So that's one of the reasons that I'm here at this meeting here. So if you have specific questions about the admissions process, you can address them to me.
Thank you, Kevin. Why don't we go to Jing next?
Oh, hello, I'm Jing Zhu. I'm predominantly an experimentalist. I have a very training background. Started building instruments, and then my graduate advisor asked me, are you building the instrument to build the instruments, or are you building the instrument to answer questions? So that pretty much has defined the rest of my career, which is we're using established tools in physics and recently in math to address questions in biological physics. That is to say, my recent focus has been understanding the role of diffusion in biology, in biological searching processes in biology, and in using tools like bending with light matter interactions that we study in E&M to study novel material properties of biopolymers, which I will talk about later. So we predominantly have been doing experiments, but through the developments partly brought on by COVID pandemic, we have expanded into computational approaches, which has been very fruitful, this feedback between experiments and computation. So,
if you'd like to share a slide, we can do that now. I was thinking this would be the time where we can show a slide or two if you want about your research.
Let me share my screen. Yeah. So I will walk you through one of the recent project, which is materials. The question that we asked is, how do cells sustain mechanical force? Okay, so macromolecular scale, that example that we might we might be familiar with is this reinforcing rods in concretes that we put into buildings to earthquake proof. So here's this picture of a bridge after the 1989 earthquake. So you might agree with me that how well this bridge withstood the earthquake really depends on the mechanical property, how well these rods withstood force. So now, given that macromolecular analogy, we're going to look inside of cells and say that there are analogs of these reinforcing steel rods in cells. So you're looking at a few cells. The blue are the nucleus that are the cell center. And the red and the green are the biological analogs of the reinforcing rods. I will draw your attention today to the green stuff. That's the rods throughout the volume of the cell. And there are these tiny tubes called microtubules, tubes on the micro scale. Their cross sections are on the 25 nanometers in cross section. The length can be quite long, say tens of microns. Now, so if you buy the analogy that these are the reinforcing rods of the cell, then we can refocus our question, how do cells sustain mechanical force, into how do microtubules respond to force. Now, on some level, this question is already answered, because we know that the Young's modulus of this polymer, this microtubule, is about 1.2 gigapascal. That's similar to what a plexiglass would be. So if you want to bend this rod, you might imagine that you walk into Home Depot, pick up a plexiglass plastic tube and bend it. That you might imagine that's how these polymers will respond to force. But the Young's modulus description assumes a purely elastic model. What we discovered recently is that this description does not suffice. Instead, these polymers can adapt to force, so the subunits can rearrange, deform to adapt to force. And not only that, this is an entirely reversible process. So this already tells us a mechanism, gives us a clue on how cells can sustain mechanical force by the individual adaptation and reversible adaptation of the reinforcing rods inside of the cell. So what we're going to do is to follow on those and to investigate how does the microtubule, this polymer, actually adapt to force? Like what does this? What's the structural basis of this adaptation? We're going to use a combination of experiments where we use light to bend the polymer and computational tools to get at this problem. So if you're curious about this project or other projects in my lab, here's my email. I'll be happy to chat. So thank you for your attention. Bye.
Okay, thanks a lot, Jane. Jay, would you like to introduce yourself next from the lab there?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Jay Sharping. I am an experimentalist. That's why I'm sitting in the lab. And I do mostly, I try to do mostly quantum mechanics experiments, which means that I'm almost always doing things that are not quantum mechanical because it's hard to get to that point. But anyway, I do quantum optics, so using lasers and optical fibers primarily to generate pairs of photons that maybe are useful for quantum information. And then also at low temperature, trying to put together and test mechanical oscillators that, again, right now behave very classically, but maybe we can tease them into a situation where we can observe some quantum behavior. So I'll give you the virtual lab tour here. So in behind me are dilution refrigerators that we use to conduct experiments at tens or hundreds of millikelvin. And so those are recently reinstalled here on campus and operating in the lab, mostly operating. Everything requires a decent amount of attention to keep it working. And then, well, I won't walk you around the whole lab, but we have a bunch of optical tables that we use to do the quantum optics experiments. I mean, I think that's a pretty good summary, and trying to set up harmonic oscillators where you can see that there's some quantum mechanics going on. That's my goal, and it's mostly experimental. So again, if you want to send me an email, that'll be fine. I think all those resources are on the physics webpage. That's the best place to look for email addresses.
Very good. Thank you, Jay. Why don't we go to Lynn?
Oh, hello. I think I can also share something on the screen. Let's see. Let me open. Okay, this is a slide. So the slide actually briefly, just one slide, it's actually briefly summarized what we do. So we are a theory group study quantum information sciences, including quantum computing, quantum networking, and quantum sensing. So so this also include, for example, special purpose quantum computers like quantum simulators and adiabatic quantum computers. So let me just briefly summarize two main directions we work on at the moment. So one is to demonstrate quantum computer. So one objective here is to demonstrate that quantum computer actually has advantage over classical computers at even the current stage. So this is something we call near-term quantum computers. In this case, we study on the device level related to how to implement quantum computing with specific devices. We also studied algorithms that can demonstrate the advantage of quantum computer over classical computers. To be specific, we study a number of topics along this direction, including quantum simulation, which is to use engineered quantum devices like qubits and also cavities to stimulate many-body physics that cannot be studied effectively by classical computers. And most recently, we studied many-body state preparation with different techniques. This is, in fact, also related to one of the most fundamental questions in quantum computing. Basically, in some sense, any quantum computing is the preparation of a desired state. So we also studied the certification of, for example, quantum simulators. We also study quantum engineering in specific devices that can give us novel physics and also novel quantum states. So this is just a picture demonstrating we have a quantum simulator, and then we have a ancilla system coupled to the quantum simulator that it can either demonstrate interesting physics or can basically be used as a device to accelerate adiabatic processes. And another direction we study is the interface between different systems. So in this case, we mainly focused on mechanical networks in the quantum limit, and also on optomechanical interfaces that can connect very different systems, such as connecting microwave to optical devices. So in this case, we actually studied quantum state conversion between very different devices, quantum devices. For example, if you want to you convert a quantum state in a microwave device to a quantum state in optical device. So this is the, one system can implement this idea. We also study the generation of novel entanglements. Most recently, we are studying pulse shaping in mechanical interfaces. And the other we are studying is to generate cluster states, continuous variable cluster state in mechanical network. So cluster state is a novel entangled state that have many interesting properties. So, okay, so this is a picture that demonstrated, that illustrated So a mechanical interface, now you can see there's a mechanical cantilever here. It's actually vibrating. It's connected to optical systems on the right-hand side, connecting to microwave system on the left-hand side. So I think this is basically a brief summary of what we do. So we basically use quantum optics and also condensed matter techniques and to study problems in quantum information sciences. I think that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. And last but not least, let's Kinjal introduce himself.
Thanks, David. So I will also share one slide while I'm talking. If I may. Okay, my Zoom is frozen, so I won't do it right now. Can you still hear me though? My video is frozen. Okay.
Yes, I still hear you clearly.
Okay, so sorry, I can't do the slide, but yeah, my name is Kinjal Das Biswas, and I'm assistant professor in physics here. My research, I'm a biophysicist, but that can mean many things, so I can try to briefly explain what I do in my research. So I'm interested in the modeling of what you could call the physics of living matter. So we apply condensed matter, particularly soft condensed matter approaches to study biological systems, because after all, what biology, if you think of our cells and tissues, they are made of materials, and these are soft because, as Jing explained very nicely, they have like an elastic modulus, which is much softer than something like metals. So we are interested in how mechanical forces generated by cells. So cells actually generate their own mechanical forces. They have tiny molecular motors inside them, which helps them do that. So how they use these mechanical forces to organize themselves. So if you think of how an embryo or tissue develops, like life starts from a single cell, and then it's like a ball of cells, but then it shapes itself into various complex shapes. When we like full-fledged animals, we have hands and legs. So how does all that come about from some simple rules of interactions between cells, especially using mechanical forces? So that's what we study using theory and modeling. And I'll be very happy to answer any questions. And I've been on the graduate admissions committee a few times, so I can also answer some questions about that. Okay, thank you. Sorry, my video is frozen.
Okay, very good, thank you. So there you have a sampling of some of our faculty. So now I will share some slides to talk about some things about our program overall. And let's make that full screen. There we go. So to start with, particularly as I see many of you are joining from many different countries there, where are we? So here's a little map of California for you. And we are right here, kind of in the middle of California. Here's San Francisco, here's Los Angeles, and that's where we are, in an area called the Central Valley. We are located fairly nearby to Yosemite National Park. Here's a picture of Half Dome. So that's one of our nice attractions in the neighborhood. Here you have a few pictures of what our campus looks like. I am sitting in the building right here called Arts and Computational Sciences right now. Some other things about our neighborhood. Within about a 2-hour drive, you can get to a lot of other nearby universities and labs, and so we have a lot of collaborations and also using facilities at some of these other institutions, both other UC campuses as well as Stanford or some of these national labs. We are a very, sorry, why did it do that? We are a very new university, founded just in 2005, the newest campus of the University of California. Campus likes to say also we are the first US research university of the 21st century. And we've been growing rapidly. In particular, both of these views that I have here are basically of this part of campus called the 2020 project, which we managed to get completed just before and during COVID, right on schedule, actually, in 2020, which has doubled the size of our campus, and provided lots of nice new lab space, like where Jay is right now too. A little bit about our program. So we have 20 faculty members. So this is just a sampling of our faculty who we have on the call right now. We also have 16 other affiliated faculty in other departments, but who physics students could work with. We have about 60 grad students who come from all over the US and many foreign countries, some of which I've listed here. It's also worth noting, so we have 7 out of our faculty member are women, and about a quarter of our grad students are women, which is significantly higher than you'll find in some other physics programs. And we have about 65 undergrad physics majors and just over 9,000 undergraduates here overall. So I've got a few pictures here. This is actually my research group a few years ago at this local vineyard that we have. It's a cool place you can go and hang out and eat pizza in the summer. Here's a picture of actually some of the physics majors just this last weekend, taking a look at the annular solar eclipse that we have as part of the astronomy club. We like to joke about spherical cows here, as we actually have cows that are, we actually have cows that are grazing around our campus. So you've probably heard this joke about physicists approximating cows as spheres, and we actually have the cows around here to do that. Here are the research areas that we divide our faculty into. So we have atomic, molecular, and optical physics, biophysics and soft matter, condensed matter and solar energy, and astrophysics and astronomy. And we have faculty who are doing both experiment and theory, or observation, one should say, for astrophysics in each of these categories. So we've got people listed here. I put in italics a couple of our faculty who are emeritus and so are somewhat less research active. And then here are our affiliated faculty. So some of these are advising physics grad students. So these are definitely people you can be looking into as possibilities. So yeah, they're primarily in another department, but they are doing physics related things and are potentially interested in advising physics grad students as well. And you can find everybody listed on our research page here. So let's talk a little bit about the application process. So the application goes through our website here. We have 2 deadlines. So the first one coming up is December 15th, and we call this the priority deadline. So basically at this point, we will start reviewing applications. We'll typically make about half the offers that we expect to make from the students who apply at that time. And then the final deadline is January 15th. And so we will review the rest of the applications we make at that point and make the total number of offers we want. In some cases, if we happen not to have made all the offers, we might look at some applications beyond January 15th, but it's not wise to count on it. If you can, definitely try to get your applications in before December 15th. We require a bachelor's or master's degree in physics or a closely related field, for example, applied physics or something like that. General and physics GRE are optional. So if you have them and you think that they look good, you're welcome to submit them. If you don't have them or don't want to submit them, that's perfectly fine. We'll need your transcripts from college. So I think many of you are international students. No, you don't need to worry about doing the conversion or something to the US scale yourself. That will be taken care of by our graduate division here. We'll ask for 3 letters of recommendation, and we're particularly interested in letters that can talk about how you have done in research. So if you've been doing research in a bachelor's or master's degree, definitely ask one of your supervisors from that to write you one of the letters. We want a CV and statement of purpose and personal statement. So these are important to tell us about your interests. Definitely make sure to mention what kind of areas you're interested in and which of our faculty you're interested in working with, because we are, we're not just trying to look at, are you a good student overall, but are you a good match for our program and for specific opportunities that we have there. So let us know what you're thinking of. We'll need a TOEFL or IELTS exam scores for foreign applicants, unless you've attended an English-speaking institution. You're also welcome to give us some other work that shows about your skills in research, such as a master's thesis, or if you've published a paper, there's an optional place in the application you can put it in. Important thing to note is we accept students to our PhD program overall, not about working with a specific faculty member. So that's a matching step that we'll do afterward. We want to make sure that there are opportunities that do fit with our program, but we're not necessarily trying to make that match right at the admissions time. That being said, it is definitely encouraged to contact any of our faculty who you are interested in working with, and you can ask them questions like, are they planning to take a student this coming year? I, for example, am not. I have 7 right now, and that is plenty to keep me busy. But some of our other faculty are definitely looking to recruit students, so you can get a handle on that. And also you can ask about what kind of projects are ongoing, or whether your background seems to fit well with what the needs are for that research, any other kind of questions you have. There is an application fee, which you can find on the webpage. We have a certain number of application fee waivers. Yeah, I mentioned this here, but I think also Jess from our graduate division admissions has also sent you information about a fee waiver associated with attending this webinar as well. Then we also have detailed information on our webpage. So we try to answer many questions there and give advice about all the specific elements of the application and admissions procedures. So you can look at and follow on that information. So a little bit about how our program works. So here are some of the courses that we have. So there's a review course called Foundations of Physics. I'll say a bit more about that in a moment. Then we have 4 core classes, which students typically do in the first year. We have quantum mechanics, electrodynamics, statistical mechanics, and classical mechanics. If you have taken comparable graduate courses elsewhere, like in a master's degree, you can waive any of these. Actually, I meant to take the electives off this slide. I'll say more about that in the next slide. And then we also have a couple of classes. Yeah, that's right. We have an introduction to graduate research, in which each of our faculty, or many of our faculty, will give a talk about their research to help acquaint you with all of the opportunities in our program. There's this class that's about ethics in research called Responsible Conduct of Research. And then we have a weekly physics colloquium on Friday mornings, and you will be asked to sign up for at least 4 semesters of that. So then you will take 2 electives. One needs to be from physics, and the other can be from from physics or any other science and engineering graduate course. And here is a set of courses, at least that we've been doing recently in the physics department. So you can see we have a wide range of different options to cover your various interests. Yeah, a little bit more about the foundations of physics. So this is a class we just started last year, in which in your first semester you will review the undergraduate knowledge in physics, specifically classical mechanics, electricity and magnetism, and quantum mechanics. And the idea of this is to kind of consolidate your knowledge in preparation for our graduate courses. We also run an exam at the beginning of the semester. So if you can prove that you are good to go on all of these topics and don't need the review, then you can just test out of it and not do the course there. In unusual situations, if a student actually has not taken the corresponding undergraduate course, you can also do that to satisfy the requirement. So some steps in the actual PhD. There's a qualifying exam, which is done typically in the third year, in which you will basically propose what the rest of your thesis will be, show some preliminary results, and be examined by a committee of faculty about the basic knowledge you should have for this topic, as well as about the plan for the future. And when you pass this, you're set to advance to candidacy, and at this point you can get a master's degree that we call master's along the way, because it's part of the PhD requirements. In the first year, students will do a rotation. So this is part of how we try to find a good match with an advisor for you. So you just get started doing a little bit of work in one of the labs, learning about how that research area works in the fall semester. And it could be the same faculty again in the spring, or it could be a different one, letting you learn about different groups, also letting the advisors learn about you to try to find a good match. Students in the first year typically are teaching assistants, so you're going to be doing undergraduate discussions or labs, and there will be some training to help you get up to speed on that. And then for mentoring, we have older grad students will be your mentors. They can give you advice, and also the faculty from your rotation also serve as your mentors until you have a permanent advisor. Here's a typical timeline of how the program works. So in the first year, you're doing this undergraduate review course, taking core classes, being a teaching assistant, exploring research topics through rotations, and then at the end of year one, you should have gotten a permanent PhD advisor. In the second year, you'll be beginning research, forming your thesis committee, and also taking elective classes. Third year, you'll be working primarily on research and advancing to candidacy. And then in years after that, 4, 5, sometimes 6, you'll work on research. Sometimes students do internships, for example, at a national lab. And of course, you'll be writing your thesis. And some of the benchmarks we expect along the way will be writing publications about your research, presenting at conferences, and also getting involved in some outreach activities and mentoring undergraduate students, or typical activities students will do to some extent. The money, of course, is important here. So key thing is that all students that we admit to our program receive a 5-year funding guarantee. And so that's enough for the typical time to the PhD. As of this year, the stipend is around $36,000 per year, and that includes paying the tuition and fees. I mean, this much goes to you, and some other money goes to the UC, and you don't have to pay the tuition. This funding that's mentioned here can come from various sources. So you can be a teaching assistant, you can be a graduate student researcher, which means that you are being paid to do research from one of our faculty's grants. And then there are also a variety of fellowships. So there's CCBM and GRISE, which Professor Gopinathan is going to tell us a little bit more about. There are some internal fellowships from the graduate division. There's this Condesa fellowship I'll tell you about in a moment. And there also is funding for the summer that can come through the physics graduate group. And there's additional funding that can be available for travel through the physics grad group and other sources. And one thing I'll just mention, you may have heard a lot about how the cost of living is very high in California. This is true, but not really of Merced. So I made a little table for you here, and you can see that it actually costs much less to live in Merced than many other places in California, such as the Los Angeles area or the area around San Francisco. So the money goes somewhat farther in this area than it would elsewhere in California. Good. So where do students go after they graduate from our program? So here's a list of some different places. Many students go on to postdocs at various other universities, also sometimes at UC Merced. Many go on to postdocs at national labs. We also have a number of students who are working in industry, for example, at Apple or Intel. Some students go to faculty positions, a variety of different kind of universities, both right around here, like Merced College, but also in China or elsewhere. And some students go and work for government research agencies like these here. And you can take a look at a full list here of all of our graduates and where they are now. And finally, here are some ways you can learn more. You can see these linked on our website as well. We have a little video, we have a brochure, a flyer, there's our website, and there's our brochure from the AIP Grad School Shopper. Yeah, look at which faculty you may be interested in working with, and contact them. You can also, you can ask questions later on here, but later on you can also could also email Professor Mitchell as our admissions chair, or questions maybe specifically about the application website or something can go to our general graduate admissions page. And here's also a virtual tour of campus that you could look at. Okay, so that's all of that part here. Now, let's see, okay, great. So Ajay has joined. So why don't you tell us a bit about CCBM and GRISE now?
All right, sounds great.
And you can also introduce yourself. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Let me actually first make sure I can share screen. I'll start with GRISE. All right. And can you see my screen? Looks okay?
Yep, looks good.
Okay. So hi, yeah, thanks, David. I'm Professor Ajay Gopinathan in physics, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about, and I do theoretical and computational biological physics, kind of like Kinjal, and in areas that are similar to what Kinjal presumably talked about, and Jing as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about two programs. First, I'll talk about the GRISE. These are fellowships from the NIH, and I should mention at the outset that these are available only to domestic students. So if you're an international student, please bear with me till I get to CCBM. But I'm just going to say a little bit just in case this is recorded and people might want to see what's out there. So this is a graduate training program funded by the National Institute of Health, the NIH, and so what it does is the training grant aims to prepare a diverse pool of scientists earning a PhD for competitive careers in kind of biomedical field, and interpreted broadly by training students in biological problems using quantitative interdisciplinary approaches. So that's where we come in. So I'm director of this program, but I'm in physics. And so we encourage people, and this is a program that spans 6 departments that you can see listed on the right: applied math, bio-E, CCB, materials, physics, and quantitative systems biology. And so people can come into this program by applying to the graduate programs in any one of these disciplines. And here, particularly, we're talking about physics. This application process is simple. When you get to the application portal and you're uploading your documents, there will be a checkbox that asks whether you're interested in this program. I'll say a little bit more about the program. But if you are, you would just check that and then write a little blurb about why you're interested in it. So what is it actually meant for? This is meant for students who are interested in the physics context, interested in the interface between physical sciences and biology. So trying to apply physical methods and concepts and ways of thinking and computation and techniques to basically biological problems. So this is a fellowship for students who are coming in. And there are lots of benefits for being a fellow. One is your full tuition, stipend and tuition are paid for the first 2 years, including summer. The pay rates are set by the National Institute of Health, and we actually supplement from on campus to make it equivalent to any other fellowship. In addition, we also have travel support. So we get about $1,000 a year to go to conferences, workshops, and things of that sort. We actually have specific courses that you can take as electives from within physics. So they count towards your graduate program, but they're also electives within this program. And once you finish the set of electives, you actually can get, we're working on formalizing this, but you'll be able to get a graduate minor in biotechnology. So that's where we're going with this. So if that's of interest, this is a program that you can look into. We run a lots of professional and career development workshops. And so there's a lot of structure in the program. There's a lot of mentorship. And so we basically make it easy for you to come in and start getting going on research as soon as you come in, because you're kind of freed from the having to, TA or do other kinds of work for your stipend. So we have other programs, and there's also a timeline of activities, but I won't get into it. And you're welcome to go to the website and look at it. This is just kind of an outline of where you'll be. And the main idea is to get you, and you'll see on the right-hand side, I don't know if you can see on the right-hand side. Main idea is doing a lot of research. So we want you to be able to get to a lot of research before the end of the second year, when we expect people to actually pass your qualifying exam. All right, so this is what I just briefly talked about before. How do you apply? When you go to your program, when you go to the application side, you will see a checkbox. It'll say GRISE program, and then it'll ask whether you want to be considered, and then you can say why. And it's fairly competitive process. We get about 100 applicants every year for, we have about 6 slots across all the departments. But that's something that's great to apply to if that is of interest. All right, so that's the end of GRISE. If there are any questions, I can take it. Otherwise, I'll talk about CCBM, which is related. Okay, hearing no questions, I will then just quickly talk about CCBM. Oh, I should ask, are there any domestic students here? Just out of curiosity. Oh, we have an international audience. Excellent.
Yeah, I think it may be the case that everybody is international.
All right. So this will be hopefully of more interest. Let's see. Can you see my screen? Hopefully, yes. All right. So this is the CCBM program, which also I think David mentioned earlier. So this is not a program, this is a center. So it's the NSF, National Science Foundation funded Center for Cellular and Biomolecular Machines. This is one of our focuses is, obviously research. Again, this is research at the interface of physical, chemical, and biological sciences. And it's led by 2 co-directors, one in physics and one in bioengineering. So you can see the interdisciplinarity in the center right off the bat. Some details about the center. It's, again, as I said, it's research which is multidisciplinary, trying to attack problems that are to a large extent of biological interest, but also could be bio-inspired. So, and I'll talk a little bit about actual themes a little bit. But just some details about the center itself. That's the funding level. Over the last, we've been funded about $1 million a year for the last 10 years, from 16 to 26. It's a fairly large center. We have about 100 total affiliates, including faculty, staff, students. It's about 30 faculty groups, and across multiple 6 different departments. So it's truly an interdisciplinary mixture, and it's a nice atmosphere to be in, to be able to interact with people from other disciplines and collaborate. There's a lot of institutional impact because we are large and we have a lot of facilities, and we make it easy for faculty to get grants, collaborative grants as well. But for the students, what is important is that we do offer fellowships as well. Again, Unfortunately, these particular fellowships are for domestic students only in this context, but there are other fellowships that I will talk about, other funding methods that I'll talk about that are open to all students in the center. And these include research awards and seed grants, which are primarily for the research expenditures, but also kind of training travel awards that we give out to students. And so these kinds of awards can allow you to go to conferences and workshops, but also purchase supplies and basically manage your own research project. We also have a lot of training. We have hands-on training workshops in imaging and spectroscopy. We have one in computation. We have another which basically deals with tissue culture, flow cytometry, and other wet biology techniques. So we offer these workshops basically free of charge. So it's a great opportunity to be able to learn these techniques that you could actually use in your research. We also have access to our equipment that we have at the center, which includes large-scale mass spec equipment, computational resources, and so on. Just a quick word about research areas. If you're wondering what kind of research we do, you can go to the website. The website is there, ccbm.ucmerced.edu, and check it out. But broadly, there are 3 thrusts, and they're basically divided on scale. And so at the smaller scale, we think about proteins and their interactions and their assemblies, and then engineering proteins to make interesting nano devices that you can use for sensing or therapeutics. So that's kind of the thrust there. And that brings in a lot of engineering and physical sciences because you need to understand the molecular level dynamics of these things. At this kind of mid-scale, a lot of physics people are in this thrust too, which is at this mesoscale assembly. So we are interested in large-scale assemblies of proteins, including microtubule motor mixtures, which presumably Jing and maybe Kevin also Kinjal talked about, and active matter, things that are adaptive and collectively respond in ways. And the idea again is to think about novel materials that you could make with these bio-inspired systems. And finally, at the larger scale, we have adaptive cellular communication. We're thinking about cells and multiple cells, clusters of cells, tissues, and things at that scale. And so how you can make design a tissue, patterning, and how function emerges in these collectives. So these are all kind of the broad areas that we're interested in. And so if you have an interest in any one of these areas, you should come check out CCPM once you're here. So with that, I will stop and turn it back over to David, unless there's some questions.
Yeah, thanks, Ajay. I will now just say a couple of words about our Condesa program, and then we'll turn it over to all of you for any questions you have. So this is another training program that I alluded to before. It's called Convergence of Nano-Engineered Devices for Environmental and Sustainable Applications. This is a program funded by the National Science Foundation. It's called an NSF Research Traineeship Program, which means that we have a research and education program. And in this case, the goal is nano materials for environmental sensing. And it's a collaboration also involving Lawrence Livermore National Lab, group of faculty who are mentioned here. In particular, 3 of us are physics core faculty. So Professor Sayantani Ghosh is the leader of this. She was not able to be here this morning. I'm also part of it, and Professor Michael Scheibner, and then also Mehmet Baykar, who's one of our affiliated faculty, is also part of it. And then we have people from some other programs as well. There is a fellowship associated with this one. It is also available only for U.S. citizens and permanent residents, but that provides some fellowship support. So the fellows are expected to get involved with some of the research cores I'll mention in the next program or the next slide. But international students are also able to get involved and access some of our travel funds and research supply funds, and get involved in our classes and professional development activities. These are the 3 research areas involved. So there's detection of organic and inorganic contaminants in geo-environments via nano-enabled sensors, nano-enabled sensing for greenhouse gases and carbon cycling in soil, and also advanced quantum sensing for geo-environments. These are the two classes that are available, so they count as physics electives. Anybody can take them, but they were started through this program. Nanosensing for environmental applications and nanofabrication for interdisciplinary material sciences. Yeah, these are our 3 cohorts so far. You can see from these little pie charts, we have what, four physics students who have been involved, I think, as well as students from some other areas here. And one of these, could be coming from our new program. This one, unlike GRISE, you would apply in your first year if you're interested, rather than at the point of application. So this is just a thing to keep in mind, that's an opportunity you could take advantage of if you came here. Good. Okay, with that, let's turn it over to you. So open to your questions. Feel free to unmute, or you can type something in the chat, whichever you like. Kinjal or Ajay, you want to address this? We have a question in the chat about biophysics, or Jing for that matter.
I will address the question in the chat. From my perspective, no, I'll use myself as an example. Example 1, I failed my biology in high school and I never took it in undergrad. And and now I am making discoveries in biology. So how do you do that? Well, part of the research is that we're using the tools that we have as biophysics, physics and math to address important open questions. Open meaning that people don't know the answer. Of course, there's going to be some coming up to speed, but that happens with every subject that you will study. Every new open questions will include collection of what is known, what is unknown. How do I move at that forefront of that interface of the known and the unknown?
Thanks. And just to recap, the question was, do you need a thorough background in undergraduate biology to study biophysics? Yeah, and the answer was no. Okay. What other questions do you have?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Good morning. Actually, it's 5 p.m. down here in Nigeria. Do I have a couple of questions here? But I'm going to start with let's say the most important one. Though all the questions are important. The first question is this: what does University of California look for in a statement of purpose? And then
yeah, well, sure. Why don't we take them one at a time? So that's a good question.
Okay.
Okay. If you look on our graduate studies webpage, you can find a specific list that we wrote. I'll put this in the chat. What we have here is statement of purpose should be about 2 pages in length and discuss why you want to enter our PhD program, what your research interests are, who of our faculty you are interested in working with, any previous research experience, and what your career plans for the future are. So yeah, that's basically a checklist. It's particularly important, the part about what your research interests are and who faculty you want to work with. We sometimes get some statements that don't have this information, and then we don't really know what to do in terms of trying to match up your interest with our program.
So, sorry, is it compulsory, or let's say necessary for me to list at least 3 professors that I would want to carry out my research with? Is it necessary?
Yes, I mean, yes, I would say it is compulsory. If you don't, then we don't know whether there's any match between your research interests and what we do here, right? I mean, there are a huge variety of different topics one can do in physics. We do some of them here, and we want to make sure if you want to do research in our program that you want to do research on one of the topics that we can help you with. For example, no one here does high energy physics and particle physics. So we have occasionally gotten applications from students who want to work in those topics. That's great. Unfortunately, they need to go someplace else because we can't help you with that.
Okay. So what then happen if you list the 3 professors and unfortunately that year, let's say they are not ready to recruit any new students into their lab? So what then happened to your application?
Well, this is why I would advise, so you can email faculty and ask them about it, and you can try to avoid this situation. I mean, I think most of our faculty are potentially interested in a student for next year. So, I mean, it's not like you have to just find 1 or 2 of us who are. But yeah, reach out and ask and see if they are taking students. I think is the best answer to that.
Sorry, can I direct this question to you now? Are you ready to take any students?
I personally am not. Yeah, I have.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a lot of students right now, and can't take any more. But
okay. So sorry, what extra skills related to doctorates do you need? For example, let's say MATLAB and coding and all that. So is there specific skills, extra skills that you need?
not really. I mean, I would say in general for each of our different research groups, I mean, there are particular things that you need to know, but I mean, we're more interested in that you just have a solid grounding in basic physics. I mean, if you don't know MATLAB and you need to know MATLAB, then, in a few weeks or a few months, you can learn what you need to know. If you don't know the undergraduate curriculum in physics, so that would take years. That's what we're, looking for that you have done.
Okay, thank you very much. I think you've answered all my questions. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you. Good. I mean, okay, so we have another question in the chat from Ekanayake, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I think, right, we were just talking about the programming part, and that's fine. So, I mean, any knowledge that you have about programming already is great, but there's not a specific requirement of what you need to know. Would somebody like to answer about how simulations are integrated with experimental research in physics?
Sure, I can
Jing,
answer from...
Jing okay. I was going to say Jing should answer that.
Okay, I'll let Jing answer then.
I don't want to dominate this. I would just say that for my lab, we're predominantly experimental, and then we use computation to test models. So there's a feedback. You have a readout, and you can use simulation, whatever language it is. The idea is to say, here's our model and what are our predictions, and then say, do we see that in experiments? Now you can do that on any scales with both interlab or intralab. I will hand this over to Kinjal, who's a simulation expert.
Yeah, so I will answer it from a complementary perspective because I'm a theorist, but I work a lot with experiments. So, I mean, one important thing and I'm also answering from the biophysics perspective. So usually when you're working in biophysics, you need experiments to prove something. I mean, just because something is mathematically or physically correct, that doesn't mean that's how biology is working. So in one way we use computation is just analyzing data from our experimental colleagues. And the other is to create our own models and generate what the predictions are so we try to generate predictions for experiments because one advantage of simulation is you can try many different parameters and you can run many cases, whereas doing that in experiment would be slow and time consuming. So you can generate predictions also for experiments as well as try to explain what you're seeing in the lab. And as for, I'd also like to answer the second part of the question, which I think was already answered. But yes, I mean, we don't require any specific software or programming language. Having said that, nowadays most students do have some sort of computational background. It doesn't matter in what language, but it does help if you have some prior coding. But we also have graduate classes here, like we have a class on machine learning, and I teach a class on computation and modeling for biophysics. And there are similar classes for condensed matter, maybe from other departments. So there is a lot of resources available once you get here. And it is an important skill nowadays, whether you're doing experiments or theory. So we'd encourage you to develop these skills by working with your other graduate students in the lab or just taking these classes. So there are multiple ways to do this.
Yeah, I'll just add that there are also summer workshops that are led by CCBM that you could even take during the summer. You don't actually have to take a class. So you can, if you come during the first summer, you could take a course even before classes start. So those are all possibilities.
I will follow up with everything that has been said by referring you to Richard Hemming's book on learning to learn, the art of doing science and engineering, learning to learn. So I would advise you to not worry too much about having a specific skill, because the skills and techniques will develop, and the skills that we're using today is totally obsolete 20 years or 5 years from now. So the goal is to, what we're doing in physics, particularly in graduate school, is to learn how to learn. How do you approach a problem and develop methodologies to approach it, develop critical thinking to define the problem and divide and conquer into small bits that you can make progress on. Those are I will advise you to focus on that rather than specific techniques, specific subjects.
Yeah. Yeah, something I could say related to that. Sometimes we get the question, like, if you want to do biophysics research, do you need to already have done biophysics research? And so the answer, I mean, you could ask the same for any research question. We're interested in seeing that you have had some exposure to research and some success in research, whether it's in the same area that you want to continue. That's not particularly important. It will, we just want to see that that you're doing well at applying physics in the lab or in simulations, and it's not too important which area that was in. Okay, there was also another question in the chat about there is a requirement that the GPA is 3.0 or higher, which is a general graduate division requirement. It is possible to make exceptions to that. It happens once in a while, but we need to have that there are some other compelling attributes about the candidate, like that you have done very well in research or something like that. For the international students, it can be a bit confusing, the question of seeing what is actually the accurate conversion of your GPA to. So yeah, I mean, you can give it a shot. You may not know what your GPA exactly is going to look like when it's converted in our scheme. Also, so yeah, that's about that. Other questions? What is the average GPA of applicants you have admitted so far? Yeah, that's actually a good question. I'm not sure I have those stats at hand. I mean, I think that it's, maybe like 3.4, 3.5, something like that. Would you agree with that, Kevin?
I'd agree with that. Maybe somewhere around 3.3 to 3.5. So you don't have to have a 4.0, in other words, to be admitted.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, well, it's a little bit after 10, so why don't we wrap things up? Thanks everybody for attending. Feel free to please take a look at the info on our website. I also posted just now the slides that we had presented, so you could look back at the links or any other info there. Please feel free to reach out to us or any faculty that you're interested in working with to learn more. And we look forward to seeing your applications.
Mhm. And if you have any other questions, you can reach out to me as well as the admissions chair.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.